The moment. Silence was learned and speaking became hard.
I don't remember exactly when I learned it, how to stay quiet, but I know this much. At some point, speaking stopped feeling natural. There was a time when if I wanted to say something, I just said it. That was it. Then one small moment happened. Nothing dramatic. Probably something no one else remembers. I wanted to say something. I really did. But right before I spoke, I paused. Is it necessary? Is this the right moment? What if I'm misunderstood? And I stayed quiet. Then I realized nothing happened. No one looked at me. No one reacted. The room didn't change, but inside I felt relief, like I had avoided something dangerous. I think my brain learned something that day. When you stay quiet, nothing bad happens. And that lesson repeated itself. At school, at home, with friends, when a joke hurt, when something felt unfair, when I disagreed but didn't say it. I wanted to speak, but before I did, my mind filled up. I formed a sentence. Then another voice interrupted. That sounds stupid. You're overreacting. You'll ruin the mood. And the sentence disappeared before it ever left my mouth. Over time, I noticed something. Speaking wasn't just speaking anymore. Speaking meant choosing the right words, controlling my tone, avoiding misunderstanding, being ready to explain myself. That was exhausting. Silence was easier. When I stayed quiet, no one expected anything from me. No one asked my opinion, no one waited for a reaction, and somehow, that felt safe. Eventually, people started to see me as the quiet one. Calm. Doesn't talk much. Doesn't cause problems. Hearing that made me feel relieved, because now my silence wasn't strange. It was normal, but my mind never stopped talking. All the things I didn't say kept looping in my head. Different versions, different endings. In real life, I was quiet. Inside, I was arguing. And the hardest part was this. No one knew. Everyone thought I was fine, but I was getting lost before I ever spoke.
What's happening here isn't shyness, it's a learned form of protection. You stayed quiet once, and nothing bad happened. Your brain recorded that as success. Then, before speaking, thinking turned into inner dialogue. A thought appears. I might be misunderstood. That's normal. But then you start talking to that thought. You write a whole scenario. Your body reacts as if it's real. Your heart speeds up. Tension rises. And your brain decides, this must be dangerous. Silence lowers the stress, so the brain chooses silence. The problem isn't silence. The problem is when silence becomes automatic. And the important thing to remember is this. Choosing silence wasn't weakness. It was learning. And learned things can change. When silence felt safe, and its cost slowly appeared.
At some point, silence wasn't just a choice anymore. It became a feeling. When I stayed quiet, nothing happened. No conflict, no explanations, no disappointment. And that felt comforting. When I didn't speak, I became invisible. And when you're invisible, no one touches you. It felt like a quiet agreement with life. I won't cause trouble and you won't push me. And it worked. At least it felt like it did. At school, staying quiet meant no attention. With friends, it meant no arguments. At home, it meant fewer fights. Small things, but repeated enough, they start to feel like safety. Silence gave me control. Speaking was unpredictable. Silence had known outcomes. And sometimes knowing the outcome feels better than being right. I even felt proud of myself. Look, you didn't make things awkward. Look, you handled it maturely. But I didn't know the difference between managing and actually living. People called me calm, detached, unbothered. That felt good because calm meant no problems. But I wasn't calm. I was quiet. and those aren't the same. The things I didn't say started piling up, quietly, invisibly. During the day, nothing happened. But at night, my mind filled up. Unsaid sentences, swallowed reactions, ignored feelings. And I got angry at myself. Why didn't you say something? Why did you stay quiet again? But I kept that anger inside too. Eventually, I realized something surprising. Silence was exhausting. Not speaking was harder than speaking. Constantly holding back, constantly measuring. And sometimes that pressure leaked out at the wrong moments. A harmless joke, a small comment. Suddenly, I reacted too strongly. Then came guilt. I overreacted. That was unnecessary. But deep down, I knew why. Silence had protected me, but now it was tightening around me. What once felt safe started to feel small. I felt alone in crowds, present but unseen, because no one really knew me. I never showed myself. And that's when I realized silence had made me invisible. At first, that was comforting. Over time, it made me feel like I didn't exist.
Silence does provide short-term safety. That's real, but safety becomes a problem when it shrinks your life, like staying inside on a cold day, warm, familiar, safe. But if you never go out, the outside becomes terrifying. Silence works the same way. At first, it protects, then it limits. Eventually, it stops being a choice and becomes a habit. And habits, when unquestioned, quietly shape your life. Silence didn't make you wrong, but believing it was the only option made your world smaller. That's not failure. That's a signal. Realizing where the real danger is.
One day, I noticed something. Silence wasn't comforting anymore. It used to feel like relief. Now it felt heavy. I still wanted to speak, but when I didn't, something stayed with me. Regret. Why didn't I say that? This thought was new. Before, silence felt right. Now it didn't. I noticed it most when I needed something. Help, clarity, support. I stayed quiet. And afterward, I asked myself, why couldn't I say that? Silence wasn't protecting me anymore. It was confronting me. Because there was a voice inside me, and I kept silencing it. That voice used to whisper. Now it criticized. Here you go again. You disappeared again. That's when I understood. The danger wasn't speaking. The danger was shrinking myself. My life was getting smaller, slowly enough that I hadn't noticed. Someone asked me once, "What do you want?" I froze, not because I didn't care, but because I hadn't listened to myself in a long time. Silence had protected me from others, but it had separated me from myself. And that realization hurt. But it was honest. And honesty doesn't always comfort. Sometimes it redirects.
The issue isn't silence, it's when silence becomes automatic. When a behavior becomes a reflex, it stops serving you. Speaking isn't bravery, it's connection with yourself, with your needs. Silence isn't who you are, it's something you learned. And what's learned can be relearned. The real danger isn't being misunderstood, it's never being known. Not breaking silence, but noticing it.
Eventually, I realized something important. No one expected me to change overnight. I did. I kept telling myself, speak up, stop pulling back. But those commands only made me quieter. Because the problem wasn't silence, it was being angry at it. Silence had protected me once. That mattered, so instead of fighting it, I tried understanding it. Okay, I told myself, you got me here. That softened something inside me. Then I noticed a moment, right before I went quiet. A pause, a pullback. I didn't need to speak in that moment. I just needed to notice it. That was enough. Sometimes I still stayed quiet, but now it was conscious. Other times I said something small, not a speech, not a defense, just a sentence. I don't see it that way. I'm not sure. I want to say something, even if it's unclear. Those words didn't change everything, but they changed me. Because I stopped disappearing. I learned that speaking isn't shouting. It's presence. Silence isn't my enemy, it's just one part of me. And I don't hate myself for it anymore. I stayed quiet because I needed to. And now I'm allowed to choose differently.
The goal isn't to eliminate silence, it's to notice it. Noticing breaks automation. Silence isn't a flaw, it was a strategy. And strategies evolve. You don't need force, you need awareness. Growth is gradual, quiet, human. And if this story resonated, know this. Silence doesn't define you. It once protected you. And now you're strong enough to see it.